answer is yes, for its time. Part of Gene Roddenberry's core idea for the original Star Trek was to have this multi-ethnic, international community in space. Almost like a vision of the UN in space. But you have to consider that the show was made in 1966 and still pretty much presents a mostly white hierarchy with a multi-ethnic crew taking orders, following orders, getting killed. This subject came about for me when I recently reviewed a bunch of Star Trek episodes that I hadn't watched in a long time and realized that despite the show's good intentions with regard to race, Star Trek still fell into the problems of stereotyping. There are 4 or 5 examples of the series where the Enterprise goes to a primitive planet and basically encounters white actors with spray-on tans and talking engine talk. The popularity of westerns at the time made that sort of thing unavoidable. I understand that, but it's a little awkward to see an episode now about Captain Kirk becoming a Native American when he loses his memory. The Klingons in the show were often meant, up until Klingons were expanded upon by later shows, Klingons on the original show were a bucket for Asian stereotypes. The first Klingon commanders we see on the show were often made up in Fu Manchu style makeup. Now an interesting thing happens is by the time you get to season 3 and you have the episode Day of the Dove with Michael Ansara, all the Klingons are brown now. Just spray on tan brown. Okay, we covered Klingons, we covered Indians. There's also the fact that the show featured the first interracial kiss, although in context the scene that takes place in the show is meant to be a forced kiss that's sort of embarrassing and humiliating for both Kirk and Uhura. So, yeah, first interracial kiss, but a kind of rapey and weird one in hindsight. Not exactly a progressive show for women either. Principal women on Star Trek were often, eye candy or woman with a problem, or a woman who is a problem, who's fixed by falling in love with Kirk, or... I mean, you're still talking about a TV show where most of the women on the show had to wear like a really high miniskirt and go-go boots and stockings and beehive hairdos. God damn it. Star Trek also, despite the fact that it takes place in this technological future, was often kind of a Luddite television show. Computers are bad on Star Trek. Computers are often bad, from the M5 computer to the insane computer Landru, to the Nomad probe. Computers are almost always shown on Star Trek to be bad, especially the idea of computers that do things for themselves. Star Trek was very much about male free will, and the idea that a machine that takes your job away destroys man's purpose. So Star Trek actually has a complicated relationship with computers. They're only tools. Advanced AI was not something the original series wanted to get into. And again, very much reflects the attitudes of the time. And that's the best way to look at Star Trek, is as a snapshot of that era, and as a standard bearer for a better kind of science fiction program. Alright, that's it for tonight. We're expecting snow. It was 60 degrees today. It's supposed to get below 30 tonight. We'll see. Alright guys, take care. See you next time.